I was constantly conflicted, in pain, screaming out for something to make it better. You know, the actual physicality of the pain of the need to drink was horrendous. I allowed my addiction to take away my opportunity to be the man that I am now today. It took from me, it took from my family, it took that. If you hear my story and you listen to it, you'll see what I mean by that statement.
What's up, everybody? That was tonight's guest, Chris Sanderson, all the way from the UK. I'm Daniel Unmanageable. This is Hard Knocks Talks, and let's jump right in. Where's Chris?
Hey.
What's up?
How
you doing, man?
You good?
I'm doing well. Tonight was really easy. We didn't have any tech issues or anything, and we're just here and we're just chilling out. Is there anything that you'd like to say before we jump in tonight?
Just thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to be able to speak, and for the opportunity to get to know you as well. You seem like a great guy. You know, you got a good message, and this is an awesome platform. So, just thanks, really.
Well, thank you for being here. We always are honored that people would come and share their lived experience with this community. So, having said that, let's do it.
Okay.
All right, before we get started, I just want to let the viewers know that this live production tonight is brought to you in part by Prairie Sky Recovery Center. Okay, Chris, the floor is yours, man. Where would you like to start?
I guess every great story starts at the beginning, right?
Single step.
Single step. It's hard, man. I guess the stereotypical addict, for want of a better term, has like the terrible upbringing, you know, demons from the beginning. They find solace in a poison, you know, and they shut out the darkness that's their existence. I didn't have any of that. I had a great upbringing. My parents were good, loving family, brought up in a Christian household. Whether that's good or bad, that's on your own opinion, you know, but you know, we were brought up with the right morals, the right ethics, a good basis for good people, really. And I still managed to mess it right up, you know.
Was there drinking at home?
Very little. My mum and dad were drinkers, but they weren't habitual drinkers. You know, it was like a glass of wine with a nice bit of food. My dad may have a beer when he got home from work if the day had been hot, that sort of thing. Or on Sundays if there was a barbecue and it was socialising. Of course, there was a beer around, but there was nothing excessive at all. My parents were moderate people, you know. They lived a moderate life. They lived a normal life, really.
Were you ever compelled at a young age, like when you saw the beer sitting there, were you like, man, I wish I could like get my hands on that?
Do you know, no, not really, man. And my first ever memory of drinking was like, I grew up in a village called Lakenheath in Suffolk in England, yeah. And if there's any American guys watching that have any military links, they'll know Lakenheath. It's a massive Air Force base. Yeah, and it's leased to the American government from us. So the village I grew up in, I was surrounded by American military, and I went we do something called work experience through school, where you take like a 2-week sabbatical from school and go and learn your stuff. And some friends got me a work experience placement on the airbase, and I ended up in an inter-squadron competition. Long story short, there was like a play game thing at the end of the thing where everyone was just having barbecue and drinks, and it was just ice butts, like water butts full of beer everywhere you went. And I was 14, and I ended up with alcohol poisoning at 14 because I was unsupervised. No fault of anybody's, man. I was there under my own steam to a point, but at 14 I drank myself into a medical situation, you know. And looking back, that kind of is the start, really, of my love for disjointing myself, I guess, because it started from there with a lot of retrospect and a lot of hindsight, you know.
So was it there was really no desire to be away from yourself before the first time you tried it, and then you realized like, hey, wait a minute, I can get away from the things I don't like by doing this? Like, is that what it was like for you?
Yeah, and you know what? You've hit the nail. I was running immediately. Yeah. but I had no clue what I was running from. I had no clue what was chasing me. I just knew there was something there. As you get older, I guess you kind of understand a little bit more of your inner self. Whether you understand it or not, you're more aware of it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I guess I started running. I started with the moment I could find something to help me run from something I didn't even know I had to run from at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I started running, and I ran hard as well.
So that's interesting that you didn't realize that something wasn't right until after you found something that took that thing that wasn't right away. That's interesting.
It is. I think it's. I don't have an answer for how or why that happened. Actually, yeah. I don't. It's one of the few situations in my life that I've challenged, and I don't understand why alcohol was my escape from it. When I had a support network, I had my family. I could talk to my mum about anything. I mean, anything as well. Mm-hmm. So I could have discussed whatever I was feeling with her, but I didn't know what I was feeling, if you understand what I mean. I felt a darkness, mm-hmm. a darkness generating, if you understand what I mean. And it was tiny, man, but it was a difference.
Yeah. So how was school? Like, did you make friends easy?
Yeah, really easy. I was a good guy at school. I was good at school. I was a class clown. I was a bit of an idiot. I'm not going to lie to you about that. But I was the idiot that made people laugh rather than the idiot setting the class on fire. Do you know what I mean?
You had an idiot that set the class on fire?
There was more than one, I'm sure, in our generation at our school, but that's a whole new story, a whole different story. But yeah, no, I was an average guy, man. If I applied myself and pushed myself, I could have been above average. Like academically, I was good. I smashed my grades without even trying it. Mm-hmm. And that's not any ego in that statement at all. It's just I'm just a normal guy. Do you know what I mean? And yeah. So school wasn't, there was no negative influence from school at all. I was good at sports. I was good with people. I had a good social interaction with people. I wasn't bullied as such, you know, especially as I became a teenager and started becoming a man. There was certainly no issue like that. So no, there was no like social influence for me to be pushed into a dark route or anything like that. It turns out it was just a very, very deep rooted situation that happened to me.
So was it problematic? Like, looking back now, like probably at the time you didn't realize when the drinking became problematic, but was it like as soon as you got that first taste, were you all in?
Not right at the beginning, no. If I can take a time to just tell you a brief outline of a story, and it's really relevant. So I started work at 16. I left school at 16. That's a lie. I was kicked out of school at 16. Am I trying to kid? So I was kicked out of school at 16, and I had no choice, man. My dad was very matter of fact. It was, you know, go to work now. And your opportunities change, so let's make it happen. So I found a job real quick, and yeah, the job I worked for was for a builder's merchant, so like a timber yard, for want of a better term, really big concern. And they had a licensed bar in their basement because they had like a social club with a pool, the darts, very English games, yeah, like bar games. And because of that, they had a bar linked to it, and every lunchtime, the bar was open. So at 16, I was taken to the bar by my boss, and it was completely socially acceptable. And he was buying me a pint of lager at 16 years old. Mm-hmm. And that was on my first day, and on my second day, and on my third day. I worked for them for nearly 10 years.
Wow.
And that pattern didn't change. That pattern increased. It massively increased as well. And that's where it wasn't a recognition of a problem. It was a recognition of an ability, if anything, because I could drink as well. You know, it was like, I wasn't a guy that could have half a dozen or 6 or 7 beers and that'd be me at the end of the night. I'd have half a 6, 7 dozen beers at lunchtime on a Friday as a warm up to finishing work, to then go to the bar to start. You understand what I mean? I was good at that. It was a natural ability that I had. And wow, did I make the most of it. That's all I can say on that.
What did your parents have to say about this when this was happening?
So my parents knew that I was drinking, but they didn't understand the level of it, if you understand what I mean. Like, I am absolutely convinced. My mum's not around anymore. She hasn't been for a long time. But I'm absolutely sure that if my mum knew the exact amount I was drinking every day, she'd have had something to say about it. Mm-hmm. I also honestly feel that if my mum was around today, she would have something to say about how little action she probably took at that time. Because I've had that conversation with my dad. It was a really hard conversation because it was something he wanted to take ownership of, and that was his fault. It's not. It's no one else's fault. That was always my choice and my decision. But I feel that because I was good at hiding it, it's not their failing as a parent. I was a man in a man's world. Even though I was a kid, I was 16. I was out in a man's world doing a man's job. Mm-hmm. So they couldn't police every step I took, you know, and I hid what I was doing really, really easily. So, yeah, there's no blame to be put there in my mind or heart, I don't feel, you know. They just let me do it. And it wasn't through any negligence. It was just because they didn't see a problem with it because I didn't present a problem for them, you know. Yeah.
So were you living at home during this whole time?
Yeah. Yeah, not the whole time. I've had children from like the age of just turned 19. Oh, yeah. I had my own house, like rented place and stuff, from quite a young age. So myself and my now ex-wife, we set up home and we had kids together, and I'd moved out by the time I was 18. So still very connected to the family, still seeing them all the time, like on a weekly basis, this, that and the other, but there was no direct injection of their parental control anymore. Do you get me? Because I was then a man. I was paying my own bills and living my own life. So they couldn't really do much about anything.
So when did it start to become noticeably like a problem in your life?
To me?
Yeah.
Yeah, about 2 years ago when I gave up drinking.
Okay, well, how about this? How about looking back? How about looking back now?
Okay, so retrospectively. Yeah.
Retrospectively, there we go.
Retrospectively, I think the problem probably my recognition of it being a problem, and it's also the recognition of me not giving a shit about it being a problem as well, which then presents itself in a bigger picture that hopefully we'll get time to talk about, I guess, is probably when my ex-wife, Vicky, fantastic woman, I've got to say this as well, amazing woman, great mum as well, but like when she fell pregnant with my daughter 25 years ago, the conversation was had then, like, come on, mate, let's curl it in. I think even my dad said something at that point, like, you're now becoming a real man, you've got real responsibilities, let's do something real about this. And I was like, that's sweet, I'm fine, I'm earning enough money to cover everything, it's all good. In my head, as long as I was financially contributing, I was good enough, you know. I think that's the social preset in your head, isn't it? As long as you're bringing enough money to the table, what you do, it doesn't matter because you're not taking away. Okay, financially, maybe not, but emotionally and spiritually and in every other way, you are completely detracting from what you shouldn't be detracting from, you know? So, yeah, I guess years ago, I recognised it was a bit of an issue, but...
So what were some of the...
True statement to make.
Yeah. What were some of the behaviours that you were displaying that your family was so concerned about?
Do you know what? They weren't so concerned. This is it. It wasn't like, so I don't know what it's like in Canada, and there's no, like, this isn't a casting dispersions on different, like, societies and this, that and the other, but England, the UK is a very, very drink-driven society. If there's a problem, we'll go and have a pint about it. If there's a celebration, we'll go down the pub about it. Everything's about, let's get pissed about it. Do you know what I mean? That's how it is over here. Yeah. So it's if you are drinking, like, this is the truth of it. If you're 16 and you're able to drink 4 pints in an hour and still go and do an afternoon's work, no one sees that as a problem, or no one saw that as a problem. People went, wow, that guy can hold his beer.
You get accolades for it. Yeah, you're like a rite of passage type thing.
It literally is. That's the term I couldn't find it, to rite of passage. So I was wearing my man medal then because I was the guy that I was still stood at the end of the night doing that. Hi, I'm good. You know,
Mm-hmm.
at 18, I'm drinking 40-year-old men under the table. And on Monday morning, everyone's finding that hilarious for the week. That the new guy has done that to the old guy that's shown everyone how to do it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So there was no like, there was no answer. There was no question to answer, if you understand what I mean. It was a little bit like, how do you do it, Chris? That was how my mum was. How do you do it? How do you still get up for work? Oh, you know, Mum, it's all right.
Oh, you know,
It's just that.
Got that. Yeah.
Exactly that. And if my dad asked, it was like, I don't know what you're talking about, Dad. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah,
you got to be that guy. You don't have to be that guy. This is the thing, and this is the message. This is a part of that bigger picture. You don't have to be anything. You have to be good for you and what you love, and that's that, isn't it? You know. But you takes your time and your life, and you're making your mistakes and your destruction to rebuild your beauty, I guess, and rebuild your tranquility and your peace. And I just hope that not everyone's path is so destructive and barren and lonely and shit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's all I want out of this now.
So
that's all I want out of this.
If we look back, and you know, there is this mentality that you know, we use the lessons that we learn, right, to build a better future, to be a better person. Knowing that, do you have any regrets?
No, don't regret a thing. Not one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Would I change things? Yeah, in a heartbeat, man. In a heartbeat. Mm-hmm. In fact, I would give up part of what I have now to make things different in the past, to change how people feel about me now to a point, right? And the only people I would do that for are my children, because they've loved me unconditionally through all of my shit that I've put on them, yeah? So that is the only thing I regret, is the fact that my children have had to learn to love me through pain that I've generated. If I could change that, yeah, I would.
So when you said if you could change the way people feel about you, like the way your children feel about you, now in that, is it more like maybe you could change the way they feel about themselves as a result of how you treated them?
No, absolutely not. So I want to make some, I've been an addict for a long time. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I've got a lot of children. And one thing that I've prided myself on is my ability to be still a functioning father. So how I treated them as such was in a subliminal way. Okay, so it wasn't like I was a negative influence on their life. I wasn't a destructive alcoholic. I wasn't the guy that came home from the pub and smashed the table up. And that did actually happen once. I don't know why that came out. That did.
So you're almost always once. Never that guy.
It literally happened once, and it was a really heavy table as well. Man, that was a crazy day. Anyway, that's a whole different story.
Yeah.
But as a rule of thumb, my whole life wasn't revolved around aggression and negative feelings from my drinking. It was an overall lacking as a parent. It was an overall lacking as their fatherly influence, if you understand what I mean. And then on the flip side of that, it's a direct influence of how not to be as a person. But I didn't see that. I didn't. I honestly feel I'd never genuinely intentionally put my children through what I put them through again. No, I'd never do it again. You know, never at all. The only thing I think I'd change, the truth, to actually answer the question, my kids are proud of me now. Yeah. They tell me, and they don't tell me as sycophants. They don't tell me as yes men. They don't tell me because they're all powerful dad or anything like that. It's nothing like that. We've got a really mutual, respectful relationship. Yeah. And they love me and they respect me. The only thing I would change is that they still had this same love and respect for me, but without having to see me become the person I am. I just wish that I could have been that person from their beginning, if you understand what I mean. I wish I had the strength in myself and my character back then to make it different. That's the only thing I regret. Everything else, I can't regret it, man, because without anything I've done, even the darkest, dirtiest, horrible things that I've put myself and others through, I've got to embrace that as part of who I am now, though, because I can find the strength to sit back and look at people I've decimated, people I've destroyed, and take power and strength from that now. And not in a megalomaniac, like narcissistic way either, you know.
Yeah.
But
in a learning way, in an like, you know,
yeah,
I often say, and I hear what you're saying, because I say things like that too. You know, if someone came to me and said they could magically take away all my pain and all my bad memories and all the bad things, I would say no thanks. No, because it's in that pain where the lessons are that turned me into what I am today and gave me the drive to do the things that I'm doing. You know, it's those dark memories that I have the ability to say to someone, like, I've been there. And you and I both know the power of someone sitting down beside you and being able to relate to the things you're saying. You know, that gives us the power to save lives that you can't learn in a classroom.
It does.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. But that's a direct source that you can draw from.
Yep.
That energy, even if they're not physically sat next to you, we're what, 8, 9, 10, 12, I don't know, my geography's terrible, but we're thousands of miles away and I don't even know you, but I'm drawing from your energy because you're like-minded and you're on the same page as me and you want to talk the same as me, speak the way we do. You know, it's the honesty and the energy that comes from trying to be better. It's a tangible thing. It's tactile. You have to have it, I think. So powerful.
Got a comment coming in from Naomi. Naomi, thank you for the comment tonight. Naomi says, always said that and believed that too. If it wasn't for everything I've been through, I wouldn't be the woman and mom I am today. I only ever make us learn and grow. It only ever makes us learn and grow.
So true. Hey, Naomi. Naomi's one of my best friends.
Oh, wow. Glad you're here tonight, Naomi. What finally did it for you? Like what happened that, you know, finally you put the plug in the jug?
Yeah. So, you know, if I am one of those lucky guys that has that defining moment, you know, that, I call it my epiphany moment, if anything. And, you know, when someone, like, I'm going to talk about my Lottie now. Now, my Lottie is literally, she makes me emotional straight away. So just get past the fact I'm crying, yeah? I'm not crying, I'm chopping onions, you just can't see what I'm doing, right?
Okay, yeah, chopping onions.
My Lottie stuck by me through, she got with me when I was an alcoholic. Now, the girl had no idea I was. Fully functioning alcoholic. She worked in the bar that I was drinking in. Got to know her, bullied her into a relationship with me, as you do when you're a hot-headed man full of testosterone, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, so like we started off really good, man, and like we've always been really good. But I was a drinker. She went along with it, and things were great. But my Lottie's always been my rock. Always been my rock. The power that woman gives me and the passion she allows me to have just to be here is beyond comprehension. And I want to say thank you to everybody that can hear me. Thank you to that woman. She's the reason I'm alive today, and I mean that. Yeah. So we had actually split up. Obviously, COVID was a multinational issue that everybody had. And just before COVID, we'd had a relationship breakdown. It was, just me being a dick, I think, really more than anything. It was an emotional thing, but there was no issues or anything like that. It was just, I was in a really, really crap place in my head. She wasn't in a good place with her, and we went our separate ways. I moved away. Lockdown happened. So lockdown forced the separation, yeah. And it forced me to move on in my head when my heart didn't, but my head did. But this is the kicker. We were pregnant. We had Lot was pregnant with our baby that we have now. And towards the end of COVID, the lockdown was lifting, but my drinking had gone through the roof. And I mean, like, I was waking up to a litre bottle of Captain Morgan's Spice. That was the start to my day. I'd start with half a bottle and then move on to the other drinks for the day and then finish with the other half of the bottle and then have tomorrow's bottle behind it. You know, that's the point I was at. And I'd come down to decorate the place where she was about to have the baby. And she begged me for ages, man, to sort myself out. We've got other kids. I've got 2 other children with her. And something clicked this day, and it was just the look in her eyes, it was the pain. And it was the absolute reality as well, you know. It's the reality when someone loves you and you know they love you, man. It's an easy word to say, but you know when the words aren't hollow. And she'd always said it, and I'd always believed her. But this one time when she said, "I love you," you're killing yourself. And that was just enough. It was enough because I wanted to stop, but I didn't know how. I had no power in myself. I didn't feel I had any power. I was powerless. Mm-hmm. I was only powerful when I had it in my hand. You know, I was drinking my power, and that. By the end of the day, I was untouchable. You know. Mm-hmm. And it was her. She stood there. She was broken, and she was broken because the man she loved was broken. And when she said I was killing myself, that wasn't a metaphor. I was ill from years back, yeah, and drink kills me. And I was literally, every drink I was taking, I was putting a step closer to death. And even though I knew that, I still drank and I still did it. And I was still absolutely all consumed by the absolute need and want to just distance myself from any form of reality. And I had no idea why. Mm-hmm. I had no clue. Nothing would give me an answer as to why I was a pisshead, why I was constantly on it.
Yeah,
I just didn't have an answer.
So tell us about
but
the
I
day.
knew I wanted to.
Huh? Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Sometimes there's a lag between us.
No, please do, because I will talk forever. Stop me when you need to stop me. I promise you that.
So tell us about the day. Like, tell us, okay, you know, your love says you're going to kill yourself, and she looks in your eyes, and what then? Like, did you go out for one last piss up and then be done, or was that the end right there?
I had one last beer. Right. So the day we had that conversation, was September the 14th, 2020. Mm-hmm. And that was a Monday. And I woke up to drinking. She'd gone out. I'd just moved home. So this is where she begged me, and we'd made the decision to stop. And I'd come home. That Sunday was when it happened. The 13th was that conversation with Lot. Yeah. My son took me back to Suffolk. I grabbed everything that I had that I could, and I came back that night. I had no drink in the house at all. Lot had to go out that Monday morning, and I said, I'll take Finley to school. He's my son. Yeah. I'll take the kids to school. So I took Finley to school. She'd gone out with Ember, our daughter. And on the way home from school, I went to the co-op, our local shop, and I bought 8 cans of strong lager. Why did I do that? I have no clue, but I did. And I went home and I stood in my kitchen and I popped the first one, and this is exactly how it happened. And I just did that. And I got about halfway through the pack. I was starting to get all gassy. That was the only reason I stopped. I couldn't physically do it anymore. But the stopping, I called her and I spoke to her, and she could tell I'd had a drink. And she said, when are you going to stop this? When is it going to happen? It has to happen soon. And I think it was the clarity of the conversation from the night before, the fact it was 9:45 in the morning and I'm 2/3 of the way for a pack of beer. Mm-hmm. And there's nowhere else I'm going other than to finish the day right to the end of the day with doing this. Mm-hmm. So I pulled it away then and there. I poured the rest of the pack away. And that night I went to my first meeting, my first 12-step meeting. Okay. And on the walk home from that meeting, my friend Henry stopped at the shop, bought me my very last beer. I demanded it from him. And I drank it on the way home. And that was the very last beer I had to this day.
So tell us about your first meeting. How was that? Like when you walked through the door, did you walk alone or did someone go with you?
No, my best friend went with me, who's also in recovery. Yeah.
Okay. So you must have called him. You must have been like, hey, this is getting tough. You know, take me to a meeting.
He lives underneath me. We live in apartments. And he lives directly underneath me. So he kind of went through that whole day with me, if you understand what I mean.
Yep.
And I was adamant I didn't want to go to a meeting, but he put it on me and he made me do it. I'm glad he did, not because the 12-step program helped, but it helped me find my direction, if you understand what I mean. It was his impetus and his love and his power behind me to get me to leave my house that night and go and seek help. That's the first step. Where I found the help's irrelevant, but the seeking of the help is the mental change. Yeah, it's the hammer comes down effectively, and that's when you make your choice.
Well, I've heard it said before that once you walk through the doors of AA, it fucks up your drinking.
It fucks everything up sometimes as well, you know. But look, man, I'm not an advocate for the 12-step program. I'm not against it as such. But it wasn't for me, and that was real clear from the get-go. I mean, like 6 minutes in, the only reason I didn't leave was polite. I'm too polite to walk out of an open meeting. So yeah,
because I know you said you said to me when we first started talking, however long ago, that you the program, you didn't like it, and it wasn't for you, basically, is what you said. And I found that I like hearing that, and not because I don't like the program. I love the program. I love the 12 steps. They work very well for me. But I also recognize that there's a lot of different ways to do this. So, but I am interested to know, when you walked in there and you said in the first 6 minutes you'd had enough, what was it that you heard that turned you away?
I'm quite controversial sometimes in my take on things, maybe. Honestly, really, I am a little bit. So my views are my views, but other people's views are their views, right? Everyone's opinion is their opinion. Opinions are like arseholes, mate. Everybody's got one. Yeah, so we've just got to live with that. I don't follow a religious path in my life at all, okay? Doesn't mean to say I'm a bad guy. I'm quite a spiritual guy, in fact. I just don't follow a religious path. The 12 steps makes it clear from the get-go that there is no religious affiliation. Yeah. So it is to find a higher power, but it's a higher power of your own definition, really, to make sure that you have an answerable level so that you can check yourself against that higher power. And this is my take on it, so that you can level yourself and make your standard right. Okay. Within 6 minutes, the guy that took the chair was telling a Muslim guy who's in the audience, in the group, who was sober for 18 years without any blip, that he is not truly sober because Jesus isn't in his life.
Jesus.
Now, that might have been that group specific.
I would hope so.
But that was enough to leave a really shit dirt taste in my mouth. I was just like, this ain't for me, mate. This ain't going to work for me. This, if anything, because I'm very vocal. If I'm challenged and I don't agree, or if I see something happening that I really don't agree with, I'm the first one to say something about it. But I can't stand the intolerant. I don't like the intolerance. And I felt that was incredibly intolerant of another man's path to get himself clean. Who cares that Allah got him clean? Who cares that a bucket of water got him clean? It doesn't matter what got him clean, does it?
Yeah, yeah. And I don't want to stand up per se for whatever, for the program or whatever, but I mean, that's not normal. Like, that is not normal.
I know,
so, but yeah, like that sucks that happened. But and something else I will say that I've said to a lot of people that the program doesn't work for. I've often, they'll say like, oh, I heard this in the rooms, or I heard that, or I'm not clean because I smoke weed, or I'm not clean because I do Suboxone. And I just tell them, like, look, there's assholes everywhere. Like, it's not just in the rooms, they're everywhere. So unfortunately, you met one.
In the rooms, though.
Yeah.
It's kind of concentrated sometimes because,
it is.
And I don't want to make this about the rooms because it doesn't need to be. It's not about the rooms at all. But like, the reason I'm a little bit negative about it is that whole first meet, all I saw was a guy trying to tell somebody that his way or the highway. And then for the rest of the meeting, it just seemed like it was a battle of ego, man. And the one thing about getting better is the absolute release of any ego. Look, have self-confidence and have faith in your ability, but to live your life with ego is just, that's your first hurdle you are gonna hit with your knees. You're doing that straight away. Get rid of the ego, get rid of the self-importance. And I felt that, I think it's just through human nature. It's the demographic of people that are all dragged into that room to be together on top of each other once a week, twice a week, 7 times a week, whatever suits you. Mm-hmm. It's a melting pot of ego. And unless you've actually got hold of your addiction and you've got hold of that ego and it's not got the better of you, then it's always going to. And a lot of the time, if you're at the groups, you haven't got a hold of it. So the ego is still trying to come out. So it's a battle. It's a constant battle that everybody has to fight, which isn't their battle. Do you understand what I mean?
I do, yeah.
So for me, it detracted from the path of a true recovery for me. I couldn't do it that way. I just couldn't do it. I had to find my own way.
You know, it's interesting. I've also heard comments and conversations saying that some people seem to replace their addiction to substances or alcohol with an addiction to this type of recovery. You know, like,
so I've stopped myself about 5 times saying that because I didn't want to be the guy that's just hitting the groups with a hammer. Right?
This is not okay. I love the 12 steps. They work for me. This is not a church basement, my friend. You can speak your mind. It's 100%
right,
okay.
So I had this conversation with my wife. She's not my wife, but I really want her to be. Okay, so I talk about her like my wife. Yeah. I had this conversation with my wife in the kitchen today, and it's not actually a group specific thing. I think if you're an addict, whatever your addiction may be, mine was alcohol, cocaine, heroin, methadone, sex, whatever it may be, it doesn't matter. The addiction's there, yeah? To get yourself away from a negative addiction, you almost have to replace it with a positive addiction because your mind is wired that way. If you're an addict, you're wired into it's all or nothing, good or bad. It's all or nothing.
How do you think this came to be?
Exactly. The drive to get you where you are is your new addiction. So it's not a bad thing that we're addicted to the new thing. My new addiction is making everybody I love me back as hard as I love them and putting a smile on their face every day. I can think of no better addiction for any man walking the face of this earth to have than that. Tell me a better one. I am so proud that I'm addicted to my family and I'm addicted to the people that I love and I'm addicted to making their lives better by my actions. I'm proud to be an addict. I'm proud that my dark addiction has made me a bright addict. I see no problem with this at all, but it is a direct replacement because I do feel if you're an addict, you'll always be one.
So,
yeah.
Okay. So what happened? You walked out of the rooms. This isn't for me. Whatever.
That's when I had a beer.
Oh yeah, you did, didn't you? Your very last one. Yeah. So yeah. So, okay. So then what? Like this doesn't work. What does work? Where did you end up next?
The next thing I did, I went home. I didn't sleep. I smoked a joint, actually.
Oh, you did?
That's what I did, if I remember rightly. Yeah, I smoked a joint. That helped. I went to sleep. The next day, I spent the day in tears, in absolute desperation, calling every recovery centre I could find, trying to find a rehab that would take my sorry ass with no money. And just for everybody out there, right, if that ever crosses your mind to do that, don't do it because no one out there will cover your sorry ass with no money. It doesn't happen.
Well, we have that here in Canada. We do have a public system that does have public beds and stuff like that. You know, my opinion on them is not, you know, everything can be better. We'll just leave it at that. So
of course, there's room for improvement and everything, man. But yeah. Positives and negatives, at least you've got something like that for improvement. Yeah. We don't really have that sort of infrastructure where there is very, 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 very limited funded situations over here. But most of the time you've got to fund yourself.
So what'd you do?
And the cheapest quote I got for a 28-day program was 10 grand, man. And, you know, 10 grand is 10 grand. I don't care whether you've got 10 million or 10 pounds. 10 grand is still that chunk of money.
Yeah.
Just how easy it is for you to find. And it was rather difficult for me to find. In fact, it was impossible for me to find because I couldn't find it. But again, that was meant to be because I don't feel that the recovery side of things, like being locked into a recovery environment, rehab, get me out of this shit by hook or by crook, you've got 28 days, fix me.
Yeah.
I'm not that guy, man. I've always been a square peg in a round hole, right? And it's taken 44 years for me to see my own beauty in my misfit. Yeah, I don't try and conform. My lack of conformity has been my whole life, but I did it with aggression and drinking and bullshit before. Now, my lack of conformity, I just try and do it in a softer, more gentle way where I try and make my round peg kind of nestle on that square hole rather than force it in. Do you know what I mean? I just balance on top now, right?
Just nestle it in.
Yeah, literally, just balance precariously on top. You know?
Yeah. So, okay, well, like, I'm still trying to figure out. So, you know, this thing didn't work. You couldn't get into treatment. So what? I mean, something worked. Here we are. You're sober. What was it?
Okay. What worked is, wow. What worked is that I had to put my big boy pants on. That's as much as I look at it. I had to put my big boy pants on, pull my socks up and say, no one's going to help me. I've got to do this myself. There's no two ways around it. Lottie, straight away, her hand was in mine. You're not doing this by yourself. You're doing it with me. Let's do this together. My eldest son, Noel, was 18 at the time. He's a physical mountain of a guy, and he's a physical mountain of a man with a heart as well. His heart's as big as him. It's huge. Straight away, Dad, I'm on you. My 16-year-old son at the time, heart that big as well. Dad, we're all over you. My support network went, and it wrapped around me straight away, and it made me know that if I wobble and I fall, I'm still going to stand upright. I'm still going to be able to do this. And I'm lucky, man. I'm lucky that my baby was born. So I had a couple of weeks between going sober to Aria being here. And that couple of weeks was where I found myself. That started to where I found the strength and the reality that man that I was destined to be actually still is in there, man. He's in there. Just peel away the crap that you've built up over the years on yourself and start getting to him, you know? And then the baby was born. And you know what? The weird thing, I thought about this the other day. In those first 2 weeks, I didn't even contemplate having a drink. Not one time did I go, I really need to have a drink. I was getting angry about stuff, but it never went to drink. The night my daughter was born, that was the biggest battle I've had. The biggest battle I've had. You
wanted to celebrate.
Yeah. But not just celebrate, G. I wanted to get on it. I wanted to really get on it.
Yeah.
And that was a battle. That was the biggest battle I've ever faced. I'm 2 years sober next month. Yeah. And that is thank you. I'll take those applause proudly, actually. I'm really proud of that achievement.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the 2 years I've been sober, rounded it up, I hope no one minds, that is the biggest battle by far that I've ever had. Through any negative story or any negative shit that's come my way, the most positive feeling in the world was the fucking one thing that nearly got me pissed, was the fact my baby was born.
Why do you think
if the need to go and get that drink was that much, I contemplated getting my babies up out of bed and taking them to a 24-hour store on foot at 3 o'clock in the morning. The thought entered my head. I'm not saying I actioned it. I'm not saying I even thought about getting their shoes out. So please, I'm not a bad parent. But it did go in. It came out the same speed, but it was there, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
isn't that interesting? Why do you think that is? Do you think you didn't know how to be happy?
I've never thought about it until that question's been asked to me right now, man. That's the honest answer to that.
That's interesting to me.
I don't know. Come back to that. I can kind of multitask. I'm quite feminine in my nature, man. So let me see if I can link into my female side, and I'll try and think about that while we're talking about something.
Well, you don't wear your femininity on your face. I'll tell you that much.
No, man. I tell you the reason for this. I look ridiculous without a beard. I have literally got like 3 feet of head and 2 foot of body, so this works for me. It kind of fills it out a little bit.
Yeah. So now you mentioned before. You had, and forgive me for being vague, but we had a conversation and one of your sons came up. Yeah, you said that you might want to talk a little bit about that.
Hold on. Now, you see, well, you're dealing with a guy who's really passionate about his recovery and who loves to talk about stuff, but you're also dealing with a guy who's got a mind and a brain like a block of Swiss cheese, man. It's got more holes in it than I care to admit.
Well, we don't, I don't remember exactly either because I've got the Swiss cheese happening, but I remember we were talking something about amends.
That. And you know what? I think you can see by the face, huge part of it. So this is something, I don't want to talk about this to generate anything for myself. Yeah. This is something to talk about for me as a massive part of my learning curve in understanding myself, my honesty, and facing up to your own actions. Because that, for me, is accountability in this it's so intrinsically important. If you are not 100% accountable for what you do, you are failing. You're failing. You are. If you can't be straight and honest, firstly with yourself, and secondly with everybody else in your world, you need to recheck. You need to stop, readdress. You're not getting better. You're lying to yourself if you think you are. There's a son I don't see. I have 7 children, okay? I have 3 children with my ex-wife. I have 3 children with Lottie, my current fiance. Yeah. And I have a son in the middle who I had with a long-term partner. I haven't seen that boy since he was between a year and 18 months old. Yeah. And he will now be 11 on his next birthday, I believe. Maybe even 12. Mm-hmm. I failed on every level with that kid, on every level. I failed his mum on every level as well. And I've spent the last decade convincing myself that it's not my fault. That she's an arse, man. Look at the way she's treated me. Look at her stopping me seeing my son. Look at, there was absolutely zero accountability for why she chose to stop me seeing my son. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it actually took a conversation with a guy. I work for a guy, actually. Yeah. And it took a conversation with the guy about a year ago. This is how up close and personal we are with how much better I am today than I was yesterday. My recovery has sped up in the last year to 2 years, in the last year of the 2 years. Yeah. My mental recovery massively. But it took a conversation with my boss. And he opened my eyes to my moral integrity being not quite right with where I'm talking and how my moral compass should really sit at north. No matter what the situation, my moral compass should sit north, and it wasn't. I was blaming somebody else for my actions and successfully blaming somebody else for my actions by presenting my hurt in the situation as validation for her being the bad guy. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. And the truth of the matter is, it was just because I was an arsehole and I was a drinker. And we'd split up and I was drinking a shit ton more than I was when we were together. And let's have it right, I wasn't safe to be around her son. And not that I'd have brought him any intentional harm, but by my lack of ability to focus correctly, I could have unintentionally caused the kid harm. And she made a really tough decision, in fact, to take the dad away from the kid. She's had to bring that child up for the last 10 years of his life, having to tell him that his real dad lives in London. And that's as much as I know that he knows about me. And look, man, that ain't an easy thing for her to have to do, is it? She's a parent having to explain to her child that she loves unconditionally, because she is an amazing mum, that his dad ain't good enough. And I spent a decade telling people that that's on her. It isn't. It's on me. Mm-hmm. And this is the accountability side of things, man. Do you know what I mean? Now, that situation's massive. It's huge. Not to you, because it ain't yours, but to me, it's one of the biggest in my world. But that accountability goes down to the fact of, like, if you speak out of turn to your wife, do you put it right or do you not? It's little things. Like, even that little thing, like, if I speak to a lot out of turn and I don't address it and I don't check it and put it right and let her know that I didn't mean that in like that tone, and I do love her, and reaffirm that I'm not that guy, you know. If I don't do that, that's wrong with me, man, because you're affecting someone else's psyche, their energy, by just being negative towards them for no reason. Yeah. And until you check yourself properly on this, until you acknowledge that you're the bad guy, and you know what, they're easy words to say, but until you say them, but you fucking believe them, and that I mean that, until you believe them from the pit of your soul, that you know you're telling yourself the truth. Mm-hmm. You're the fault, you're the problem, and you're the cause. And you're the only one that can put it right. Yeah. Till those are accepted, in my view, you're never going to get there properly.
So if you had the opportunity to speak with him, your 11-year-old, what would you say?
There's years, I can't tell you, man. You don't have the time for that. I've got so much I'd say to him. But you know what? It's what I'd show him. That's so much more important, I think. Mm-hmm. I'd have to say I'm sorry. Who wouldn't? But there's saying sorry and meaning it, yeah? And I'm a firm believer in the fact that I don't say sorry twice, man. You ask anybody in my world, I'll never say it twice. I'm a fucker for it. If I feel I need to say sorry, dude, I'll say it. I don't have to be bullied into it or pushed into it. Mm-hmm. I'll say it and mean it. Mm-hmm. But don't milk it, because it will never happen twice. It will never happen a second time. But I'll tell him I'm sorry. I'd tell him I'm sorry for just not being the person that he maybe needed me to be. But I'd tell him I'm sorry that I wasn't able to see him become the person that he's become, you know, because he's had a great life, man. Like his mum, she's with a guy, she's been with him years, I believe. I hear no negative stories coming from that family environment. I don't hear many stories, man, but what I do hear is positive. Yeah. That hasn't given me the justification to take my foot off the heat in reconnecting with him either. Yeah. That someone else is doing my job. I hate the fact that someone else is doing my job, but I'm so pleased that someone else is doing my job, that there is somebody there to do it for his sake, you know. Yeah. I'll just tell him I'm sorry, and I hope that I'm enough for him to learn to love.
So you mentioned that you... I'm sorry.
No, DJ, tell me to shut up. Like I said, I'll just keep talking.
What would you say? No, just kidding. Shut up.
Yeah, innit? Yeah. Don't tell me.
But no. But you said I would show him something. So what is it that you'd show him?
I'd show him the person I am, not the person he's probably been told I am, you know? Because the truth of it is, the person he's been told I am is the person I was. So nothing that he knows is wrong or untrue. I don't feel it would be. I feel it would probably be quite accurate, in fact. So, if anything, he's probably got quite a negative influence. Influence, wrong term, sorry, wrong word. A negative idea, or he's built up a negative picture of me. I'm probably just the guy that, for want of a better term, fucked his mum's life up for 10 years nearly. Do you know what I mean? Like, because that's all I was to her, really. I was just a fucking leech in her emotions. I was a terrible person back then. I'm smiling about it, man, and it's not a smile of, there's no joy coming out of this. It's like, it's embarrassment, if anything. It's embarrassment that I'm recognising what a dickhead I was. Do you know what I mean? Because I was horrendous.
It's acceptance. Acceptance is like, you know, a weight comes off when you recognize, like when I did that part of my program, when I was working in my part of that recovery, and I realized that I deserved some of the shit that happened to me because I was an asshole, a weight came off my shoulders. Like that, like a little piece of the resentment that, like you mentioned there, that you were like, this is all her fault. That happened to me, when I recognized that it wasn't all that other person's fault, a little bit of that resentment went away and I felt better.
Dude, man, right. Do you know what? For the last 10 years, all I've wanted to do is tell her exactly what I think of.
Yeah.
And now all I want to do is put her hand in my hand, and I want her to feel how fucking sorry I am for the shit that I did to her. I don't want her to hear it. It's about actions, and that is the ethos in everything, man, moving forward with everything. Forget the past, forget the resentments, forget the pain. You have to start rebuilding. Yeah. Otherwise, there's no point in any of this. But your actions are fundamentally more important than your words. Anybody can tell you anything you want them to hear.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a good people reader, if you're a good addict, you'll know you can tell that person exactly what you want them to hear, and they'll be off your case for enough time that you need. Still, in the clean life that we live, we've still got that ability.
Mm-hmm.
But the greater ability is the ability to suppress the ability to bullshit your way through life and be honest and action yourself. Do yourself. Don't talk about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Be yourself. And that's enough. That'll be enough for you to shine through. In fairness, to just show everybody that things can happen for the right reasons and with the right energies, you know?
Yeah. So you got sick, and
Yeah,
and recently you've got a diagnosis.
I did, yeah.
Do you want to talk a little about that?
Yeah, I really want to talk about it, man, because it's part of it. It's demonic, actually, right now. So part of getting better is exercising your demons, man. Again, I'm not a religious guy, but I'm spiritual. I understand that there's positive and negative forces in this whole environment. This is what makes it work. The yin and the yang, yeah, I guess. Mm-hmm. My darkness inside was a demon I had no control over. Now, I found the power and the strength to throttle, to choke the life out of that demon. So I'm powerful enough in myself right now to say to you, hand on heart, for as long as I've got air in my lungs, I'll never take another drink.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't care who's watching this that says he can't say that. I don't give a fuck what your opinion is on that. I know that I will never take another drink as long as I breathe. Yeah? Mm-hmm. This demon that's inside of me, I can't choke the life out of. Because, unfortunately, it's choking the life out of me. And that's where we are with it. So all I can do with it is talk about it. And I'm very good at that, as we've already established, right? I have cancer. I have stage 4 untreatable stomach cancer. And I've been told there's nothing they can do for me, right? So there's nothing they can do for me. I have to find a positive out of this. That's the next step. Because if I don't, the only thing that is there is a negative, right? And if I have to focus on a negative, man, I know where I'm going. I'm not going back to drink, but I'm going back into a dark headspace that nobody in my world wants me to go back to. I mean, nobody, man. Mm-hmm. And how do you find a positive out of a terminal diagnosis? How do you do it? It's hard. And how do you do that without bolstering your own self-esteem and self-worth with what you know gets you there every single time? And that was booze, man. That got me to where I needed to be without fail every single time. And this time it's the worst news I could have faced ever. And it never entered my head. It didn't. No pride in the fact that I didn't drink entered my head. No, not even a real recognition of the fact that I found out I was going to die. I'm 44. I've got babies. I've got a wife who's 14 years younger than me, and she's prepared to commit herself to me for the rest of her life, never mind mine. And I've got to leave that behind. I've got to say goodbye to the last 2 years of my power and the rebuilding of my world and the shit that loves me back. And I've got to leave everything behind to do this without me. And the last thing I wanted to do was pick up a drink. But look at the change, you see? This is a really, really dark shit conversation, and I'm still crying with a smile, man. I'm talking about how crap it is. But look at my eyes light up, and there's no false there. I didn't take a drink. So what I take from that is I'm powerful, bro. Mm-hmm. I'm powerful beyond measure because I can do this. And I'm powerful beyond measure because not only can I do this, I can show that it can be done through my actions. I talk, I bang drums, I'm sober, yeah, look at me. Mm-hmm. But I do that with the power of my walk is there with it as well, G, yeah? So I'll tell you all about it, but you've watched me do it before I've told you. Yeah. I won't tell you and then hope you're looking. I do it naturally. I try and walk this path. I try and walk the sober, better person, more loving, more accepting, more humane guy, man, I guess. Humane's the wrong word, but more chill, more subtle, just more human, I guess, yeah? Mm-hmm. And
so,
yeah.
What was...
Pull me back, man.
Yeah, we're getting there. I got you. I got you, brother. We're coming. So, what was it then? You know, like, did you, at what point did you find gratitude? You get this diagnosis, and I'm sure your head just went boom. Like, it must have been quite a shocking thing to hear. Clearly, when did you realize and find gratitude in the fact that you didn't run to the bottle?
It was mentioned to me, in fact, about 3 days later in the kitchen.
You didn't even realize you didn't go to the bottle?
No.
Huh.
I haven't stopped talking about it since, but it took me 3 days to realise it.
Now you're like, I didn't drink. Yeah.
Yeah, check me out, boy. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, no. So then, you see, this is the thing. I think, like, this is another reason I'm not going back to bashing the groups. Like,
no,
like that. It's not about that.
Speak your truth,
this
man.
It's all good. Thing. So that's freedom, isn't it? It's absolute freedom. That the one thing you should be fucking absolutely acutely tuned into the fact you're not bothered about, which means you've beaten it. Yeah. If you go to the groups and you get to the point where you've beaten it, mm-hmm. and you feel you still need to go to the groups, you haven't beaten it. That's all I'm saying. Do you know what I mean? That's how I feel about that. That's probably quite controversial. I just find that, it's going back to that whole replacing your addiction with your addiction. Just make sure you replace it with a healthy addiction. Balance your addictions a little bit, mix it up a little bit. Mm-hmm. Putting all your eggs in one basket never worked for anybody, man. Look at Donald Trump. That's all I'll say.
Let's not do that.
Let's not. He's bad.
Yeah, that's the worst suggestion you've said tonight. So tell us, we're rounding the corner here. We're on the final stretch.
Yeah, man.
What does your life look like today? And like when your thoughts start to go sideways, like give us some of the tools that you use that you've developed either through yourself or through your family or whatever. How do you bring it back into reality and find that peace?
It's constant, dude. It's a constant thing. It's not like a battle. It's not. This is the point I've just been sitting there thinking, what on earth was I talking about? Because I detracted completely before and I didn't get to the point I was making. But like, the power and the freedom you get from knowing that shit ain't real for you anymore is amazing. So the peace naturally comes, yeah? So for me to be able to walk my daily life as a recovering alcoholic, as I'm a guy that doesn't drink anymore, but without having to put a positive force into that being a physical action, it's absolute freedom, isn't it? Mental and physical freedom. I don't have to wake up every day and say, I won't drink today. I don't. There's no point in lying to you and saying that I do. I don't have to go, I'll be strong only for today, brother. I don't have to do that. I'm so lucky with the fact that well before I was diagnosed with cancer, I'd made that choice. And when the other thing you need to learn about me is I'm a stubborn mother bleeper, right? I am stubborn. If I make my mind up, it doesn't get changed by anybody. It doesn't.
Yeah.
And I made my mind up and it's never going to get changed. So like, my daily walk is quite a peaceful one by natural design, really, man. Because I wake up and I'm chill because I'm at peace with me. I'm at peace with who I am and what I provide and what I'm able to give to who I need to give it to now. I don't necessarily generate a negative force. I generate a positive force. So my books are balanced. And when your book's balanced, that natural peace, it just happens, guys. That's my opinion on it anyway.
Cool, man. Well, I think that's it, brother. Is there anything that you'd like to leave us with tonight?
Look, if you're walking a path and it's shit and it's dirt and it's dark, there's ways out. There's ways out. The one thing you need to do is find your humility. Just find an ability to fucking accept that you're in need of help. And it might not seem like that will do much, but that one person you say it to, it could be the change of your world, man. The one person I said it to was 2 years ago almost, and look at me now. I'm dying, but I'm healthy doing it.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah, we got one final comment coming here, then we'll let you go. It's from a man, Thomas Russell. Thank you for the comment. Thomas says, I'm nearly 8 months sober because of this, man. Absolute legend.
It's not because of me, Thomas. It's because of you, bro. Awesome. I was just the guy that you could turn to that had the right words to say to light the fire under your ass. It gave you your power, Tom. That's it, mate. Not me. I did fuck all, bro, other than open them and open that when it was right. You've done this. It's all on you. 8 months strong, brother.
You know, I do got one last thing, and I was wondering if I should ask it or not, but I'm going to ask it. Are you scared? Like,
terrified, man. Of course, I'm fucking terrified. Yeah. Anybody that tell you different's an idiot. I'll tell you what I'm scared of, though. And I'll tell you what I'm scared of. And this is the bare truth of it, right? And this might sound really silly, but I'm really melodramatic and look like I'm not a Marvel character. I want to be, but I'm not. Yeah. I've faced death before, G. Like when I got ill 4 years ago, nearly 4 years ago, I was clinically dead 3 times. They brought me back, man. I wasn't meant to survive. I was told I wouldn't. So the melodrama in that is I've faced fear in the eyes or death in the eyes. Do you know what I mean? I've faced it, man. I've been there and I've done it. So I understand that it's finite and it's going to happen. And fuck it, bring it on. I'll make it on my terms as best I can. That's my attitude towards that. What I'm absolutely terrified of is not leaving the right memories for the ones I leave behind. Not leaving the right lessons for the ones that I leave behind. Because there is a potential, man, that like my youngest isn't even 2 years old yet. Yeah. I haven't had the chance to make my mark on her properly. You know, understand what I mean? To develop, to help her develop into the person she can be with her daddy's help. What if I go in 6 months, man? I don't know how long I've got. I refuse to find out. But what if I go in 6 months? I don't have that ability to leave that legacy with her. I've got to trust my other children and my partner that daddy will live on in Aria when daddy's not here to do it. That's what I'm afraid of. And I'm afraid, I know this, I'm leaning in like it's a secret, but there's a few people listening. I'm kind of afraid of being forgotten, I suppose. At some point, everyone forgets somebody, man. And, you know, I don't know if you've ever seen the film Coco. That really rings hard. The Disney film Coco, when, you know, even the spirit, like you die and your spirit goes to a lovely place. Even that lovely place ends when your memory's forgotten, you know. I want to leave a memory that people are happy with and that people are proud of. I guess that's all I want to
say. 20 years down 15 years down the road, your little girl comes across this episode. What would you say?
Yeah, man. I hope you're like me. That's what I'd say to her. I hope you're like me. Be an anarchist, Aria. Be an anarchist with a right compass and a good heart, my darling. That's what I'd say. Follow your own heart. Follow your path and don't be told you're wrong when you know you're not. And I love you. I love you forever. That's what I'd say.
Awesome. Well, my friend, it has been a roller coaster tonight. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Thank you for sharing your experience and your hope and your strength. Thank you for your honesty. Thank you for sharing your journey with us. And we'll let you go. Take care, my friend.
Been a pleasure.
Whew. That was something. All right. That's it for us. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you saw here tonight, please like, subscribe, follow. Tell your friends to check us out at www.hardknockstalks.com. And good